Good evening and welcome to the NDTV Dialogues, a conversation of ideas. This week, after the killing of a man in Dadri near Delhi over rumours of eating beef, the whole conversation has really been about ideas. What is the idea of India? Who defines it? The politics of culture, the making of India versus the unmaking of India. How are we really looking at moving forward, at taking people together? It's also been a week where the President in impromptu remarks talked about the core values of India's civilization. The Prime Minister, also in very strong remarks this week, made the point that Hindus and Muslims have to make the choice whether they want to fight against each other or against poverty. He said the country is one and must progress together. Remarks sorely needed at this time. And what we're going to look at is really how we move ahead. Joining me on this is Nayanthara Sehgal, well-known author who returned her literary award this week in protest against the murders of innocents of noted rationalists and of a clerk. She's also pointed to what she says is a larger atmosphere of fear. Also joining me this evening is Arvind Gupta of the BJP. He heads the very successful IT cell. I'm also joined by Brinda Karat of the CPIM, a human rights activist, also among the first to meet a clerk's family a day after his murder. I'm also joined by Mohandas Pai, well-known educationist and former HR head of Infosys. Thank you all very much for coming in. Mrs. Sehgal, are you happy with the very strong statements made by both the Prime Minister, the President, in a way addressing some of your concerns? Because it's really been the head of government, the head of the Republic, coming out very strongly and stressing the need to nurture our core values, the values you talked about, and the Prime Minister as well, making it clear that that's the path we must follow. Do you welcome these remarks?
No, I don't welcome the remarks because he's made them very often in his election speeches. He repeated what the President had just said, and what we see happening on the ground is so different that I think Mr. Modi has to focus on what is happening and make much stronger remarks with reference to what is happening on the ground.
Would you like to respond to that? Because I think though the debate is not about the Prime Minister, but I think the larger point being made that when you're talking about a culture of intolerance, when you feel perhaps Ms. Sehgal is saying that, are these just being said for the sake of saying it? Does the action on the ground reflect a disconnect?
Well, couple of things. One is the specific thing that we talked about. The Prime Minister has come out and very openly laid a vision for India, which is that we need to be more progressive in thinking about jobs, education, how do you elevate poverty and move ahead, rather than thinking of animosity towards whosoever it is. I think it's more that the glass is half full and let's move forward. And that approach, and that's something that he has done not only yesterday but many times in the past. And on the specific incident that Nayanthara ji talked about, I think Prime Minister, the Home Minister, the Finance Minister have all talked about it. The BJP internal leadership has said that what should be responsible communication in times like this. And I think the whole apparatus is geared towards not reacting in a manner which flares up any situation. So I think there are two different issues. One is the issue that is specific to an incident and a very sad incident that happened, and other is in general about where we want to see the country heading towards.
Brinda, I'd like to bring you in on that because I do find that sometimes it all becomes about political brownie points, and this is not at all about necessarily because you belong to a political party, but it does become about the opposition saying, oh, the BJP did this. The fact is we've had communal rights in India before. Sadly, we had the Muzaffar riots just about over a year and a half ago when the UPA was in power. So why is it that the discourse becomes political when perhaps it should be about various sections of society coming together? And it actually is the discourse afterwards which is often more divisive, whether it's elements within the BJP, whether it's elements within the Samajwadi Party, whether it's Mr. Owaisi or various political parties.
Well, I think you have to differentiate a bit as far as this particular incident is concerned, because this is the context in which we are having this discussion, and the context also in which the killings of Pansare and Kulbarge took place, and the context also of a clerk's brutal murder. What is that context? This is not some spontaneous happening. This is something which is planned. and it is planned according to politics. It is planned according to a political agenda. It is not a coincidence that the people who have been making provocative statements, the first arrests which were made were of people from political families belonging to the ruling party at the center. Now, if you change all this round and look at it as some spontaneous happening, that I think we'll be making a grave mistake there. Without identifying the forces who are responsible for this, India cannot go ahead.
But Ms. Karat, I'm just going to ask you that, because, for instance, in the Muzaffarnagar riots, Samajwadi Party was also on board.
Say that.
But the CPIM has had truck with the Samajwadi Party in the past. So why is it an issue only in Karnataka, for instance? There's a Congress government in power when a rationalist was killed. So why should the Chief Minister not be held as accountable as, say, the Prime Minister?
Sonia, we are going beyond that. What I'm saying is, whether it is the Samajwadi Party, whether it is the Culture Minister of India, whether it is the Karnataka Chief Minister, where is the responsibility and who is accountable? One is those at the ground level who are running a campaign according to an agenda. The second is those who are running that state government who are not doing what their job should be. So, as far as these particular incidents are concerned, which we are talking about, I agree with you that the President's words, followed by the Prime Minister, it should have a context in which people think, well, our concerns are being addressed. If people do not feel so, and I'm one of them, I would have much preferred to hear Modi ji say, this was a brutal murder, I condemn it. That, you know, we've heard world leaders in their countries when it happens, there's no ifs and buts. It's a murder, it's condemnable, I condemn it. The point is, we want to believe that sabki saath, sabka vikas. But when your own ministers and your own government are making one provocative statement after another, you know, it's a cause of concern. That's what I'm trying. I don't want to make this a political tutu meme.
Okay, let Mr. Gupta respond and come to you, because you go ahead.
So there are two, again, a very simple way to put it. See, there is a law and order situation, which is a state government issue, which is there. There is a Samajwadi Party government in place. The real issue is, I think, whatever the local factors may be, a first attempt is being made to tarnish this as a BJP and connect it to the BJP somehow. I find that itself is what is changing the whole debate than the big societal debate of what was brewing that this murder happened and what was the cause and effect of the murder. But the debate has quickly changed into some relationship with the BJP, some leader, son. Today BJP is the largest political party in the world. Somewhere or somebody will be related to the BJP, and we'll always find those connections. So, but that actually loses, the debate loses right there. The purpose of the debate is lost if we start connecting everything to the BJP, everything to the Prime Minister. I think, and that's too sad.
Mr. Pai, comment on that, because you are actually from Karnataka, where we saw before Nayanthara, we saw 6 very prominent writers there return their awards, saying that they felt that there'd be no action taken against these murders. Do you think it's about politics?
Sonia, I think it's about the failure of the rule of law in this country and the lack of justice in society. Look at all the rights as independence. Had the perpetrators been punished immediately, had there been a special investigation team set up, had there been justice done to them in 2 or 3 years, have special prosecutors been done. 1984, the Sikh riots in your own Delhi, 3006, people are not been punished. 1993, they're not been punished. 2002, people are yet to be punished. Muzaffarnagar, the victims are still going around. Who cares about the victims? Where is the rule of law? And all we want as a people is Prime Minister make a remark, condemn. President make a remark, condemn. After that, what happens? What happens to the victims? Where is rehabilitation? Our justice system takes 15, 20 years. We had that Yaqub hanging after 20 years. What is the point 20 years? Please enforce the rule of law. Please make sure justice is done to everybody, to the poorest of the poor. The government is the biggest oppressor, the poorest of the poor in this country. The poorest of the poor have no hope of justice. Unless you have justice in society, enforce the rule of law, we won't have many more events, because this is going to grow. And then what is going to happen is going to become political. Because you start blaming parties, and the whole event is lost.
No,
and I'll give one more instance.
Yes.
Ghulam Ali. Now the Shiv Sena makes a threat. The government is important in Maharashtra to protect the people who want Ghulam Ali to come. Why are they going down to Shiv Sena? The person who has made the threat should be arrested, put behind bars. The Shiv Sena is not threatening violence. You succumb to the threat of violence and then don't allow him.
The rule of law gets undermined. I just want to bring in Nayanthara ji wanted to actually come in on that. And if you could, because I think one aspect is true that are we ignoring a churning in society? We're looking at perhaps the political representatives as the font of all wisdom and all negativity, however you may want to put it. But are we ignoring a churning in society? Are we looking beyond that to the fact that why would young, educated youth actually kill a man who has lived with them for years? We've spoken to parents and other elders in the village who are completely astounded by what happened. Are we ignoring, when we talk about jobs, when we talk about poverty alleviation, do we not look at that as a social aspect? Do you think, as somebody who's actually mapped social trends so eloquently in your books, Nayanthara ji, do you think by blaming this on politics or on ideology, we are ignoring a larger aspect?
Sonia, that's a very long statement you have made. May I just refer to a previous comment made by the BJP speaker? I want to make a great distinction between the BJP party and the ideology which is now ruling India. There is a difference. We have had BJP governments in the past, but the RSS ideology has not been in power. The BJP government under Atal Bihari Vajpayee was a highly civilized government, an excellent government in many ways, though I opposed its ideology even then. But the same thing is not happening today. It is giving to a rising tide of hatred in this country, which has led to all these murders and horrors which we are seeing every day. I would like to say also that this is not a question of law and order. The question of this poor man being lynched in Dadri is not even a question of mob violence. It's a question of planned violence. This man lived in a gully where the gullies are close to each other, the houses are close to each other. No mob can enter. A few people can enter, who did enter, went to his house, bloodied him there, dragged him out and killed him. So it is not a problem of law and order. It is a problem of the rising tide of hatred that is being promoted by the Hindutva ideology that is now ruling us.
I just want to ask Arvind Gupta, I'm just going to come back just on the specific point you made on hate. And I think that's Ms. Sehgal's view. But one aspect, when you talk to the societal what's going on, why is it going on? I think that's perhaps a question that Ms. Sehgal is raising in a different way. She's saying it's because of an RSS ideology. But you head the BJP IT cell. You've seen the hate out there amongst young people. You would think be a progressive, liberal, but you've seen the kind of WhatsApp messages being circulated. You've seen the kind of groups that have been formed based on community and religion. Why is this hate out there, and why do you think it's increased?
Well, I think when...
is there no political connect?
No, I think there is no political connect. I mean,
for either party it could be, I'm saying to anyone.
I'm saying it from a very non-political perspective, because I look at it from a very progressive India, and what is missing in that. See, if people are jobless, people are not getting the quality education, we are not driving them to schools and colleges, they're sitting at home, they have a lot of idle time. That is what causes the devil's workshop, right? That's what we were taught in school. And this is exactly what happens. And that's a big societal failure. And I don't want to pin it towards the 10 years of misrule of the UPA, and that would be the best example to give it. But I think we have to look at India, which has a lot more occupation, a lot more security around themselves, whether fiscal security, job security, food security, everything. And I think that is the idea of India.
You wanted to react, Brinda? Go ahead.
Well, what I would like to come back to this point, that when I went to Dadri, the first thing that everybody said to me was that this was an example of harmony. Muhammad Akhlaq's brother, and in fact his wife, said to me that the men of our house used to leave the house, bahu beti hum log yahi rehte the, and there was not a moment of insecurity. Now, it would be quite, I think, naive on our part, if not foolish, to believe that this happened overnight. How did it happen? You asked Arvindji that question. Now, there are facts which are being relieved how it happened. There is a campaign. There is a planned campaign which happens not just in this village, but it is happening through Western UP. Is it a coincidence, I ask you? How is it that in Jharkhand, on the same day after Eid, in 4 different places, the same incident of meat throwing inside a temple, the same incident of communal violence following that? These are not things which are happening because of, as the culture minister defending the indefensible said, as an accident. My point is simply this. We have the experience of Hitler's Germany. There was unemployment there was anger among the youth, there was a failure of governance, but did it just happen overnight? There was a planned campaign according to a cultural construct of what Germany should be. And I strongly believe that, you know, you see what we're, okay, even if we get away from the politics of political party, let's just come to the concept of India. Now there are widely differing concepts of India. You have people in this country who are in a position of power. They're not fringe elements, who are saying this is what India is. But India is for a certain set of beliefs and cultures and people.
But Brinda, I have to interrupt you and make this point that do you lose the argument when you do the contrast with Hitler's Germany? Because if nothing else, there is a sense of you have a democratically elected prime minister with a huge mandate. So when words like this are used,
so was Hitler.
No, but do they actually? Go ahead.
That is why we
won
lose the debate.
No, but
this is such a gross exaggeration and bringing an isolated incident for a country of 1.27 billion people to make this statement. Anybody who has read history understands what was Hitler's Germany and what happened. And if they have, if they read the history, they understand. We are a democracy with many multiple governments all over the country, very much in opposition. We have the rule of law. We have the constitution which is not captured by anybody. We have a Supreme Court not captured. We have you. We have people in media. We have people like Brinda who are free, who can talk. Now to say Hitler's Germany, the same thing happened is a ridiculous notion and a gross exaggeration and diverts the debate. This is ideology as is
Sonia, I have to answer this. I was responding to a point made by Arvindji when he said it is because of economic distress. It is because of the anger of the youth. I am responding to that point. I am saying, please, when you talk about history, please remember the lessons of history.
Absolutely.
And the lessons of history, we're seeing it all over Europe today. We are seeing it all over Europe. We're seeing it where the IS is using the frustration of young people to kill people of their own community. When you use frustration of youth because of the failure of a system, it is not spontaneous, Mr. Pai, whether it's the IS, whether it's No. He is talking about youth. You can't blame the youth. The youth are being converted by a planned campaign.
And I think Brinda, the point would have been taken, but I think when you use the word Hitler's Germany, it does set across a different. Straight away, it does divert the debate because I think. But I think, Mr. Pai, I think one aspect that when you say the youth of being used or indoctrinated, whether it's IS, whether it's Lashkar terrorists, when you see that literally young boys of 17, 18 are used as cannon fodder in Karnataka.
Would you say
in Karnataka when you see young,
the IS is using an ideology?
I'll just ask him in Bangalore when you see see young people, when you see there an increased rise of communities with each other, how would you?
The youth are being used by vested interests. There's no doubt about it. In many parts of the company, many parts of the country, many political parties, all political parties are doing it to score points. All, not single political party. How should the state respond? In any civilized country, the state will respond heavily to make sure any provocative action is identified, the people are punished, the rule of law is enforced. I'm not joining it's not a law and order problem, it's the rule of law. The difference between the rule of law and law and order. Law and order is an incident. Rule of law is a movement. Rule of law is an act of state. Rule of law has to be there. For example, if somebody threatens, like Brinda says, the consorted action, the group action, the state has to interfere, catch those subverters and put them behind bars. Why are they allowing it to build up? Why is the SP government so weak not to do it? Why in Karnataka is Siddaramaiah so weak that he cannot use intelligence to catch these people, put them behind bars before they blow up?
If there is a planned activity happening,
why are you shy? Why are you shy of identifying those who need to be identified?
Please
why are you shy about it? You do it on the program.
Please do.
Do it on this program.
Please do. The left does it.
Do
the
it
left
on the
is supporting
program.
the country.
But
The
Brinda,
right is
how would
supporting the country.
I'm going to bring it. I'm going to bring it. Yes, go ahead.
Don't be shy about it. Identify the forces.
If there is a planned activity and there is something that is anti-national, anti-society, please identify it, bring them to the rule of law and bring them forward. But that's the job of the state government. Why blame everything that is happening on the centre, on this whole idea of India?
The point Ms. made is about the statements made by some of your ministers, the statements made by somebody like Shingeet Shom, who went there and said the cow murderers have been taken to Lucknow by the chief minister.
And I responded
what
to
action
that.
has been taken against him?
No, I responded to that. I said the party has done an internal communication telling its ministers and responsible leaders that they have to act in more sensitive manners.
But Sonia,
and that has been done. But that is post effect. No, let me respond to that. That did not cause. We are again diverting from the whole issue. If you want to go back to the murder, that did not cause the murder. The murder had already happened, and this is where the law.
Does it embolden people in the future?
No, what will not embolden them in the future is what Mr. Pai just said. Set a rule of law. Set example. Don't wait 20 years for the probes to be over and justice to be delivered. You have to do that right now. And when you give the examples of the US, when you give the examples of the US, that is the biggest thing. You cross a traffic light, you know you could be punished for that.
I'm just going to bring in Nayanthara Sehgal because she wanted to talk. And in fact, interestingly, of course, Mohandas Pai, you had retweeted a tweet asking why authors who returned the awards did not return them when the Kashmiri Pandits were driven out of their homeland. I think Anupam Kher has made that point as well, that yes, this murder is condemnable, the murders of rationalists are condemnable, but why is there not...
life is important.
But is there selective protest? I know that it's been brought up that you had protested the emergency as well, but is there selective protest? Why is it that what an Owaisi says, who is a MP, is not condemned with the same vigor, or the state government in Andhra Pradesh is not held accountable for his arrest, as there is for the murder of the rationalist? Why is the Congress government not held accountable for the murder of a rationalist in Karnataka?
I have issued a statement in this regard, which I'm sure you have seen.
Yes.
When the emergency was on, I was on the advisory board for English of the Sahitya Akademi. I requested them at that time to protest against censorship and the imprisonment of writers. They refused to do so, and I resigned from the board. This time, I had hoped that the Sahitya Akademi would raise its voice against the murder of writers and against the whole atmosphere of hatred and suppression of dissent and debate. Because after all, what do writers, artists, and other creative people need but freedom of speech and freedom of thought? And it is the Iron Curtain that is coming down now on freedom of thought that brought me forward to make this request. But no, I think much of the media, I have to congratulate the media on the job that they are doing, but most of the media we must also recognize now 75% of the print and electronic media is controlled by one corporate house, which is a bad thing and which may in the future lead to curtailment of speech, and not to mention curtailment of thought, which is already taking place with these murders. I want to point out that our whole ancient tradition is one of pluralism, secularity and tolerance. Even the Ramayana and the Mahabharata were written in different versions, but I don't think that Valmiki or Tulsidas was murdered for writing their own versions. Then the Bhakti movement rose in defiance against the priesthood. The Bhakti movement did not want anybody to stand between God and the believer. These are our ancient traditions, and upon which our present secularism has been built. Secularism is not a policy. It is not a political statement. It is a fact of this subcontinent. It is a fact to which Mahatma Gandhi gave credence through his great movement during the freedom struggle, and therefore the Constitution could do nothing but say that we are a secular democratic country. All this is our history, all this is our proud tradition, and all this is being threatened today